We begin today in Tampa, Florida, where the Republican National Convention is kicking off. Slated to speak is Mitt Romney's wife, Ann, and New Jersey Governor Chris Christie. But there's a group that feels the establishment GOP is blatantly trying to silence them. We're talking about the Ron Paul delegates, more specifically, the delegates from the state of Maine. RT correspondent Kristine Frazao is in Tampa for more on this story. Kristine, sounds like there's a lot of action going on around you. How's it going over there?
Yeah, this convention center, or the Tampa Bay Times Forum, rather, has turned into ghost town to party town. I don't know if you can see behind me the Texas delegation waving their cowboy hats in the air. A lot of excitement here, and speech after speech this afternoon. We've heard rising stars in the Republican community. We've heard lawmakers, each echoing a call for coming together to back Mitt Romney and Paul Ryan. But that may not be the case in just a little while, when roll call is scheduled to formally nominate Mitt Romney, and we still have a whole lot of unhappy delegates. We're talking about not just the delegates from Maine, but delegates from Texas, people who have come here from Iowa, several other states that are very concerned about rules that are changing. But I was able to speak with some of those members of the Maine delegation, and here's what they had to say. Of the thousands of Ron Paul supporters who attended his weekend rally, a few of them are here on business, political business. Mike Wallace is here as a delegate from the state of Maine and has spent the last week involved in a bitter fight quietly unfolding in the shadows.
There's a lack of integrity with the way the RNC is handling the Maine delegation.
The Republican National Committee's Rules Committee and Credentials Committee has gotten involved as well and succeeded in dismantling something delegates say is theirs.
They basically decided to unseat all of our delegates, and then they reappointed 20 new delegates and 20 new alternates. They did keep 10 of our delegates and 10 of our alternates, so we basically got stripped of half of our delegates.
For Paul supporters, this is the way small battles were supposed to be won, at a grassroots level, and by following little-known rules in America's sometimes confusing political process. But they're rules Ron Paul himself says seem irrelevant to those in charge.
They've been bending the rules and breaking the rules and rewriting the rules for too long. That's what we have to stop from happening.
21-year-old Ashley Ryan has become one of the highest profile faces in this fight and spoke about the consequences at this weekend's rally.
In the best case scenario, delegates will be awarded proportionally. In the worst case scenario, every state could become winner take all.
Delegates say it could undermine democracy as we know it, turning each political party from a big tent with many ideas to a small group of political insiders who call all the shots. In Tampa, Kristine Frazao, RT. The language is getting even stronger, Liz. Some people calling it the biggest power grab in the history of the Republican Party. And it's not just a one-time thing. That's what I really want to emphasize here. The thing that is concerning a whole lot of people is that the rules are, as they say, being changed in the middle of the game. I want to tell you specifically about which rules I'm talking about. Rule number 12 and rule number 16. As you know, Liz, certainly the American political process can be very confusing at times, no matter how many history lessons that you had, in high school. There is some dusting off of the political rule book in order to really understand what's going on. But delegates from Maine, also people who are concerned about politics at a grassroots level, are saying that these rules, when changed, as is trying to happen here, could really affect every state. As you know, a lot of the states in the United States hold their primaries and they hold caucuses, so those votes are non-binding. So things can change, and they're really trying to change all that and make it so primaries become more binding.
So do they see these rules, the rules you just described, as trying to keep out grassroots candidates?
Well, I think that's exactly what they're trying to do, Liz. I mean, again, the message here at any convention, for no matter what party you're in, you want to come away with a message of unity. And so what they're saying now is, even though the Republican Party is known for saying, let's leave it up to the states, let the states make their own decisions, here they're saying, no, when a nominee becomes more and more obvious, for example, as what started to happen a few months ago, we're going to just make sure everybody gets behind them. So there's no room for what we're seeing, having delegates show up at a convention who support a different candidate than the presumed nominee.
So it sounds, Kristine, like they think the GOP establishment is trying to censor them.
Well, you know, they do. They feel really disappointed. We were talking about this a little bit yesterday, but a lot of these delegates from Maine specifically are young. They saved a lot of money. They got here. Half of them now being told they weren't credentialed. They won't be seated at today's roll call, though, so they really just feel like what they've worked for, the representation that they're trying to have here was sort of just dismantled by the RNC and by the Romney campaign.
And you can certainly sense their frustration in the story, your story there. Now, this convention, as going on right behind you there, kicking off today, one day late due to that tropical storm. How do the Paulites, the ones you've been talking to, plan to get their voices out in the coming days?
Well, it's really interesting because even when you drive all around the convention center and you drive around the Tampa Bay Times Forum, there are still a lot of people supporting Ron Paul. They're holding up their signs for him. Ron Paul was here on the floor behind me just a few hours ago, and let's just say he was received very warmly. People chanting his name, chanting President Paul. So they're still backing their candidate. Even surprisingly, Liz, some people still think that something could change. We did hear also earlier and also this weekend at Ron Paul's rally, we heard from Barry Goldwater Jr., son of former candidate Barry Goldwater, who also, you know, tried to disrupt his convention back in the 60s. So some people still, right now at this hour, we're not long away at all before this roll call happens. Still at this moment, people thinking something big could happen here. Of course, if it does, Liz, we're going to keep you updated.
All right, Kristine, thanks so much for keeping a close eye on everything over there in Tampa. Look forward to hearing more from you. That was RT White House correspondent Kristine Frazao.